Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. And I thought about talking about something which usually I think people don't like to talk about. But the thing about this world is that the events that will happen here, they transcend the importance of our ego. There are multiple lives we're living. There's a life we're living to ourselves. And then there's a life we're living with the world. And so this understanding of that just like you have two eyes that see the same, you are a multidimensional being with an inner subjective ability to move and an outer objective ability to move. I was thinking about the idea of hatred. I was thinking about our modern times and how I was in media seeing like this whole conflict we see in the States between, what do you call it? This idea of, let's say conservative values of identity and liberal values. Or in the States is Republic, Democrat. But the idea is that one is using the past as a system of identity. The other is trying not to use the past as a system of identity, and we're living at a time where right now human beings, their future sense of identity is not important to them. If you look at most people, they're reacting to their past and present mainly. To see a human being live in accordance to a system of, in the sense of their future, means that you need to be a being that has faith in your mind's movement before your body. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I wondered about hatred. And I have wondered about times where I've had hatred, and I've even I remember I was at a party, it was such a strange event. This guy just stood up and said he hated it like human beings, there may be many human beings who feel this world has deceived them. This world has denied them. And so there was a very beautiful saying by this guru by the name of Papaji, this enlightened guy. And somebody came and asked him, is like, why is it some people in some sense cannot enter this divine bliss you speak of, this enlightened state? And Papaji said, because the divine rejects some people. And so this sort of response by him was very intriguing for me, because I thought, what sort of being you have to be that when you are part of the unique selection of the human species still, do you understand? It's as if like, what do we got to do to get some transcendental attention here? It's like the beings become a human being and still imagine being rejected by the divine. Really what it is it's decency. The idea is that if you have an ability to be present as you witness your body, your objects and subjects in your moment change, you begin establishing an identity that is the presence of your moment. Right now, human beings in 2023, I'll give it 1,000 years even, maybe less than 1,000 years, but there will come a time where we will realize that we are not creatures of shape. We're not conditional entities. And that would be a fascinating time, because to be honest, right now what's happening is that, I was looking at some of these videos online, these TikTok videos, and they were just taking me on this rabbit hole of this whole like manosphere, and pretty much I got this sense that right now human beings seem to be struggling between the accuracy of reality and communication when it comes to their inner realms and outer realms. Okay, and the discrimination between these two will solve a majority of human problems. I am telling you, people think, okay, this is just some random guy talking, but I'm literally telling, giving humanity, that missing ingredient, which is in some sense a recognition of what is real in your inner realms is real to you. What is real in the outer realms is real to all, to some degree. Now, human beings, sure. I've seen, if somebody says, Mr. Within, how many types of beings you've seen on this planet? How many different karmic intentions and motivations have you seen? And I'll be like, it's so obvious to me. Some beings are here just to be physical. They're just here to be physical beings. There's some beings here that are actually here to be initiated as a mental being, which I think a lot of these Mr. Within talks will help. A lot of people may think these Mr. Within talks are like for spiritual audiences, but in reality they are for any creature that has a mind in this universal sector, because the idea is that you have a starting point. This is the value of conscious existence. Now, the way I want to connect it to hate, because I want to tell the viewers kind of the context I'm looking at things through. Pretty much in all these manosphere videos, right? So pretty much what has happened, it's as if in this attempt for feminism, third wave feminism, what it is that the human species consists of two components, two starting components, two different genetical organisms. These genetical organisms, the only reason they have continued is because they were smart enough to allocate responsibility based on their existence and their energy levels. Do you understand? It was as if men were more acquainted to chase down an animal and kill it, right? And women were more in some sense, designed to in some sense bring about those men who go and kill those animals, right? You see, the thing about, of course I'm not a woman, I don't have that perspective, but I get a feeling, from an outside view as consciousness, that really what it is that I think the hardest thing about if the human species fails, okay, even though people are thinking male-centric society, but I am telling you, women are going to be way more crushed. Their souls are going to be way more crushed if mankind fails. Why? Because they are the bringers of man. Do you see? There's something here. I was introduced to it in a Eastern Islamic theocratical society kind of by the name of Ali. Imam Ali had said something in the lines of honor women in the sense that they are the mothers of mankind. That means it's as if the quality of men that are arising in this world is really being dependent on the quality of women there are. Okay, now the thing I wanted to point to, the reason I'm talking about hatred and then trying to point cast the audience's attention to this idea of what's going on now. Okay, so that you see, it's this situation where I've noticed, I saw this video is an old video from years ago, but I saw it on YouTube recently. And so the video was this gentleman by the name of Ben Shapiro. And then this young student had come up to Ben Shapiro and was in some sense arguing the transgender position and whatnot, right? And then this guy Ben Shapiro turns around to this girl, right, and the girl's saying yo, gender is a subjective construct. It's how we feel about what we are is a mental creation, right? So if I'm a girl and I feel like a guy, I want to be a guy, I want to be acknowledged as a guy, right? And Ben Shapiro was saying in some sense that it's as if if you were gonna do the same thing with age, in some sense it wouldn't make sense that if I feel like an 80-year-old man right now, does that mean I should get senior citizen tickets? Does that mean I should get all the privileges senior citizens have if I feel like I'm an 80-year-old man? Even though I'm 31? So what is this suggesting? This is suggesting that our species was in a traditional structure, and now it is a symptom of the expansion of consciousness, where in some sense conflict arises. I saw Jordan Peterson. To be honest, he's To me, I see him as a very great individual. But for me, I was wondering in some sense, because you see, there's something about, I don't know, it's about Canadian culture, I would say, where there is this incredible attitude of leaving nobody behind, right? And people are like, yo, this utopic attitude is going to destroy the nation. But on some level, we got to understand that we are not the same human beings our ancestors acknowledged. That human being is going through a transition of nature. And even though we want it to be like the men of old, right? I was seeing videos of like people, you know, in this century, in this era, acting like, you know, alpha males, shouting in the, you know, online, in some sense, trying to, you know, prove their dominance to a global online viewership. You know, it's like, and I was like, yo, man, what is this? You know, it's like this guy is, it's like nobody alive in 2023 is as alpha as our ancestors thousands of years ago, where they had to, in some sense, like brush off saber-toothed tigers, like from their shoulders and something. Not 1,000 years ago. You know what I mean? I'm pretty much trying to tell the viewers that the species is in the process of loosening up from thinking it's just an object. This is where our subjective lives, identity, individual value, ambition, vision come in. But also, the species in some sense is maturing over its subjective position. And you know, right now, people, like, for example, are arguing, yo, you know, it's like, I read something, it was as if there's a term called foxkin, right? I didn't know. This blew my mind, but there was a term called foxkin, and this is for anybody who identifies as a fox in their past life, or, you know, identifies as a fox. Okay, and I was like, yo, what does this mean? This means man's mind is playing with itself again. The species, the mind of the species is playing with itself, and what that means is it's reorchestrating the values and the positions. Please tell me this is recording. Alright guys, it's live. I'm going to assume it's being heard. Where I'm going with this, dear viewers, is that the understanding of what it means to be human, it is contextually changing. And so for all those human beings, you know, to me it kind of like, you know what it is? It's like, you know, some things you don't understand when you have the mentality of a bachelor, you know, but sometimes when you have the mentality of like being a parent, you suddenly understand, right? It's as if the importance of emotions, right? Right now we're at a point where if something too out of this world happens, human beings will emotionally become turbulent. You know why? Because we're at this point that we're realizing we're not just objects, we're realizing we're not just subjects. Another phase we got to go through is to realize you're not even your emotions. Okay? And this is so difficult for a creature in a world to, in some sense, be like, whoa, mystical guy, are you telling me I'm not my emotions? Do you know? And you know what that means? That means that mysticism is that moment when you realize consciousness is actually holding on to nothing. It is touching nothing. That's what consciousness is doing. It's literally like a genius that wrote an essay without touching a pen. Like, that's what consciousness is doing. Do you understand that some part of us knows we are not what we can expect to change? Now, let me tell you my observation on hatred, because guys, I gotta head out in like 15 minutes or something. Okay, got some time. Okay, so an analysis of hatred. I consider reality through frameworks, right? There was a time where I was like, spirituality means I don't believe in anything, you know. But then I realized the mind is a technology. Humanism is kind of like being inside an Iron Man suit, and the cool thing is we don't know what is inside the Iron Man suit. That means it's like we're Tony Stark, but Tony Stark has forgotten he's Tony Stark and is identifying with the objective subjective Iron Man suit. And so when you step out of an ideology, you get to experience something that many beings think is impossible on Earth. You get to experience a change, how can I tell you, world transition inside a world. Okay, so hatred. I see things in the sense of a relationship with the idea of a self. I think most human beings, they stabilize and they station themselves into a sense of self. And they try after you have individualized, after you have a sense of self, it's kind of just like a blacksmith, with a hammer straightens the sword out parallel to the Earth's electromagnetic field. You see, I see it in the sense of there's a view of the self, there's the view of others, and there's a view of the world. So my consciousness in this moment, as I am existing, is having a relationship with the moment as a self, is having a relationship with the moment where there is others alongside myself. That means my mind is not just seeing others, it is also trying to expect or extract or trying to figure out the meaning. Right? It's like this. The thing about the mind is that it creates illusions and it waits for the soul to figure out what's false and what's true. Do you know that's the nature of the mind? The mind is a simulation engine. Okay, so once you realize it's a simulation engine, once you know how something works, the fear goes away and then creativity can apply. Right? So anyways, when it comes to hate, so I was like, okay, what is it that makes people suddenly hate? And in my mind, I saw this instance, okay, where I was like, imagine there's two kids, okay, the same age, and you give one of them ice cream and you don't give the other ice cream. And both kids expected ice cream. Both kids in their mind expected a certain way that they intended the world to treat them. Right? And so when the result was different, right, it's as if when the world didn't treat the person, when that other kid didn't get an ice cream and that kid did, there was a feeling of like, in some sense, the person feels like, yo, what did I do wrong that the world's treating me this way? And when we feel we are hurt for no reason, there's an incredible, for some weird reason, authorization to be cruel. Anytime you feel somebody has hurt you, you as a person, I've seen it. In children, old people, men, women, it's like the moment you stop caring for something, you can destroy it. Okay, and this is the most important thing, that if they make humanity stop caring for humanity, it will destroy itself. And so it's moments like these where the universe is like, yo, we got to think of a plan, and they're like, okay, you go, and it's like, yo, $10,000. Can you imagine? Sometimes I feel like, imagine the archangels were like brats. God's like, go give a message to mankind, and the archangel's like, I don't want to though. I don't feel like it. Angels are such superior beings that they're defined as not having a free will and being the divine will. That means they are such pure expressions of faith that they can be nothing else other than the divine will. It's kind of like in the illusion we are like human beings partying, in the cosmos, but in the truth we are energy. Or, if you practice Qigong, you are energy. Oh man, that's so silly. Yeah. It's like, I don't have energy, I have energy. It's like from energy, the guy went to inner chi, Oh man. Guys, I'm in a love and hate relationship with language. People don't realize there's days that I wake up and I'm like, how dare you, masquerade as a human being in front of me, words and language and stories, and then the other days I'm like, yo, what would we do in the void though? We had to tell ourselves a story, and that story has become our reality. And we're living in it. And Morpheus, found Neo in the Matrix. And Neo was like, yo, I'm too stupid to understand this world is fake. But he was the chosen one. The idiot who didn't know, who couldn't have faith in listening to the guy who wanted to try to save him, right? Ended up becoming the chosen one. So whoever you are, you might be a fool right now. You might be in some foolish situation in life and think like you might not amount to anything, but you never know, okay? Because sometimes the fools are the only ones who can carry the burden without realizing how heavy the burden was. You see, this world needs, think of it this way, there is a demand, just like supply and demand. It's as if invisible space is demanding something of existence, okay, of matter. And matter's like, yo, get the factories going, get the cosmic engines going, and so it's as if, production has gone forth and humanity is among one of the species. It's honestly design-based. When you realize everything is designed, when you realize human consciousness is not a persona. Human consciousness is an attention which, upon its interaction with reality, it turns into a persona. Because in deep sleep, I'm not anybody. In deep sleep, it's literally like when you log out of the video game, you're not the character in the video game. And to me, I was like, yo, all this ancient spirituality, it's starting to sound like modern video games. Okay, why? I mean, think about it. The human being, cycles between the conscious waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state, right? So what it is, it's as if we're logging in, playing the game, logging out. So that kind of is similar to a video game. Then we're like, okay, what else about the human experience is similar to a video game, right? And then we see what is similar is that in some sense, you are this being that is not made of pixels and you are not two-dimensional, but you can control a being inside a two-dimensional reality. So video games are the most incredible spiritual metaphor because you are controlling a being from a dimension you're not in. Do you understand? That means we're not the video game character, but we move it. We live as it. We respawn endlessly in like modern games, right? That means the reason kids love playing video games. Why? Because it's a taste of immortality. So the thing I've realized is that there is something about misacknowledging a being's expectation on their own world that makes them angry and makes them unacknowledged. And when somebody feels unacknowledged, like that's how like the Hitlers and messed up people come about, right? And let me tell you, because it's dehumanizing. So people look at, for example, like, Hitler and all these, let's say, effed up people in history, right? and you wonder, like, what made this guy be like this, right? Was it just a mental illness? Was it society? And you're like, okay, let's say, like, I don't know, 1/3 of them, or a percentage of them had mental illnesses, like a biological system was messed up, so they couldn't do anything about their insanity. But let's say people who were like of sane mind, who ended up doing evil, it was as if they were the evil, they had tasted that evil before. Do you understand? Nobody becomes evil without tasting it first. Okay? That means you get exposed to something and your brain's like, yo, is that a possibility of action as an entity? Okay. Do you know? What I'm trying to say is, I have asked myself, what great reason is there to hate the world? That means I can't understand how somebody could read history and hate this. Do you understand? It's literally like a baby taking its baby steps. Okay, it's like a civilization taking baby steps. It's like a couple thousand, even more. A while back we were just like, climbing trees, scratching our backs, being freaking monkeys, and and now what are we doing? We're wearing clothing. We're having expectations, subjective expectations on reality. And when you as a human being understand what an advanced development subjective law was, that means if there was a chance, like if I wasn't in this line of, if I hadn't decided to be a communicator in this lifetime, I would have probably been an engineer and a mentor. And if I couldn't be that, I'd probably be a lawyer. And if I couldn't be that, I'd go to, probably a surgeon, because I have a very, very good hand control, But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that the discovery of law, that means people are like, yo, when did men stop being men? Exactly when laws came. The most alpha male man was a freaking animal biting other animals. It doesn't get more alpha than that. Okay? Do you know? It's like the thing is, we feel we are so distant from death that we can fear it. Do you understand? There was a time that human beings lived only up to the age of 25. Do you understand? Like when you were 25, you were a freaking grandfather. You were like an old man, right? Now I'm in 2023, I'm 31 and I still don't have kids. If I wanted to compare myself to the true, alpha males of history, the true emperors and kings, right? It's like what? A guy lifting barbells is the alpha male now? Reality is not about the demonstration of power. Be careful, dear viewers, dear beings, right? Power is something that it's literally you touch with permission, even when it comes to divine power. If you know you don't have permission and you still want to use that power, you're going to have an ego. And the moment a person has a subjective separation to authorize themselves something, that means, you know what it is? It's like using fiction to extend your non-fictional experience. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is hatred. What did it lead to? It led to human beings not existing. So it's bullshit. Do you know? 8 billion years. Do you know, our ancestors took so long to survive, and just because a human being feels other human beings shouldn't exist, like they feel permitted to act like there's an insanity here. It's literally like a violent animal being tamed by itself and its species to become an advanced being. As Isaac Asimov said, violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. That means those people who hate anybody right now listening to me, if you hate anything, you were not smart enough to figure out and find a way where you could not hate it. Do you know there are genius tacticians that they don't even hate their enemies because they understand that the enemy is a fool? That means when you fight a fool and when you fight like a, let's say, smart enemy, those are two different things. Okay, the fool is literally a berserker. Literally, it's a human being that just thinks, yeah, force, like that's the way it's trying to move in the realm, right? But this is the thing, that if you think blind force is power, you become possessed. That means you act too much like a physical entity. You think you're just an object without knowing something else is going to come and live through your lifetime. What this means is it's this bizarre a divine, hilarious backup system that when an individual consciousness cannot actually appreciate or be grateful for its life, then in some sense it goes into the passenger seat and another being comes in. Now, if somebody says, Mr. Within, are you the same being as since you were born? Ooh. I'd like to think I am. But what I have realized is that all the types of beings my mind has fathomed, it's in the presence of attention. My biggest realization has been I am an unknown attention that's present. And from there, the secrets of the world are still alive to wonder about. Do not make this world so lifeless that you don't care about life. Life is the coolest thing, right? That means, in the future, we're going to realize the feeling we get when others around us advance. Like, people don't understand this feeling. I don't know, I feel like somehow I have like ancient memories of it, but it's this feeling that when a species activates, it doesn't have time for shenanigans. That means we have entered the era of civilized minds. And ever since law's subjectivity had firmness and had reality in our minds, mankind has depended on a psychological environment, not a physical environment. So the thing is to realize that multiple dimensions moving at once, yet they're all present at once. The beautiful thing about truth is that it's here. This is why they call it self-realization in mysticism. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. It becomes impossible to hate the first prototype and the best thing our ancestors could do so far. You can't hate the past because it didn't know better. And also because it's past, like, what are you even hating? And so when it comes to the present, you can hate, but because to be a present being is a being like mental, like throughout the day the brain simulates itself multiple times, you can't just be in a hate. Like, you could be like the most evil person and somebody tells you a joke and you'll still laugh like a human being. It's as if it's like underneath the masks that we put on our face to be human beings and ideas in front of each other, we are actually just beings, just attention that's in a world. Simple as that. So anyways, whoever you are, if you have hatred, just try to wonder about if something has been misacknowledged, if there's a flaw in your strategy of self-conception so far. Because, there was a time I tried to figure this out analytically. But then you discover the limits of perception. And so this is where the idea of the invisible other. So what it is it's like trying to solve a problem that is not just physical, but you're using physical means to try to solve it. So at some point you realize, okay, if in a known world I am a known self, what are the chances that in an unknown world I'm an unknown self? And what if I can know that unknown self? And the knowing of that unknown self is not ideological, it's the presence of your whole moment. That is your soul. What else can it be? The whole moment is beyond everything. Thank you for listening, guys. Much blessings and namaste. Share, subscribe, comment, like, and in the chat section or in the comment section, in your observances of human nature, it's like, what do you think leads to hate? misacknowledged identity, could the impatience of the human being for reality to happen lead to a lot of his suffering? Could patience be the great solution? So anyways, guys, I don't know. Comment below. Thanks for listening. Namaste. Rise, mankind. Rise.